Welcome back to our true identity. Settle in, take a breath, and let yourself be present for this deep dive. Today, we're really diving into something quite profound. We're looking at a piece called Pathway to Peace, One Day at a Time, from the Our True Identity series. And our goal really is to unpack the wisdom here. How does it guide us toward presence, towards peace and acceptance, especially when life gets tough. During those really challenging seasons, this isn't just about theory. We want to pull out things we can actually use day to day, things that can genuinely change how we experience life.
Yeah, and what's really striking about this material, I think, is how it takes peace, which can feel so abstract, almost out of reach sometimes, and grounds it. It makes it about this specific moment-by-moment invitation. It connects these deep spiritual truths with the very practical rhythms of just living. The core of it really circles around those lines. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. Simple words, right? But they ask a lot of us. They invite this deep recalibration of how we move through the world, from rushing and anxiety to something more intentional, more trusting.
Okay, let's unpack that first part. Living one day at a time. The source connects this straight away to the Serenity Prayer, doesn't it? It suggests it's not just about that high-level prayer we say, asking for acceptance, courage, wisdom.
Yeah.
Usually when things are really hitting the fan, it seems to be guiding us towards something more grounded, like a daily rhythm for how to actually live it out, moving from the idea to the practice.
Exactly. That's the shift, isn't it? From what we pray for in those moments of maybe clarity or desperation to what we actually practice when we wake up tomorrow morning and life is still, life,
Yeah.
with all its messiness and demands. And the material is really clear here. This isn't about being perfect. It's not a performance review for our spirituality. No, it's framed as this gentle invitation, an invitation to presence, first and foremost, and to humility, knowing we don't have all the answers or all the control. And maybe the hardest part for many of us, patience. Patience with ourselves, with the process, with God, just showing up in this moment.
We've all heard one day at a time. It's everywhere, especially in recovery contexts. It feels almost like a cliche sometimes. But the source says it's not just a cliche, it's a spiritual discipline. That feels significant. How does it make that leap? What makes it a discipline?
It frames it as a conscious recalibration of our default mode. Because what is our default? For most of us, it's rushing ahead, right? Constantly worrying about the future, planning for every contingency, or getting stuck dwelling on the past, replaying regrets, holding on to shame. We tell ourselves it's responsibility. We're just trying to be prepared, trying to avoid being caught off guard. But the source suggests that underneath that, often it's fear.
Fear.
Yeah, fear of things going wrong again, fear of repeating mistakes, fear of being blindsided. And the result is we end up living, as the text puts it, stretched mentally, emotionally, spiritually thin and brittle. And crucially disconnected from the only place God actually meets us, which is
Right now, the present moment.
exactly. When we're stretched thin like that, we're not really here, we're missing it.
Okay, but here's where it gets interesting, because the source tackles a potential misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Does one day at a time mean we just stop planning? Stop using wisdom? That seems impractical.
Right. And the source clarifies that beautifully. No, it doesn't mean ditching foresight or planning or being wise. What it does mean, very specifically, is stop borrowing weight we weren't meant to carry today. Stop dragging all of tomorrow's potential anxieties and problems into today's reality and then expecting ourselves to juggle both. Because, as the source points out, we can't. We weren't built to. It's too much. We don't have the capacity to carry today and tomorrow simultaneously. And the model it offers is, profound. Even Jesus, who had the fullness of God in him, chose to live in the moment.
That's striking. Jesus himself. How does the source describe his way of being present? What did that look like in practice?
It highlights his incredible attentiveness, which is such a contrast to how we often operate, isn't it? It talks about his attentiveness to the people right in front of him, how he asked questions, genuinely listened. He sat at tables, shared life. He noticed pain, even the unspoken kind. And this is key. He didn't move with panic. He moved with presence. He wasn't frantic or reactive. He was grounded here. And the text suggests this way of being. It's actually far more difficult and far more powerful than we give it credit for. It's a discipline, a demanding one, but transformative.
So we've got this foundation of living one day at a time, being present. But then the source adds another layer, maybe even more challenging, enjoying one moment at a time. Enjoying, that word can feel jarring, especially if we're talking about times of hardship or grief or struggle. It almost feels inappropriate.
It really can. The source acknowledges that directly. That word enjoying can feel almost out of place, especially when your heart is heavy. It can feel dismissive of the pain, maybe, insensitive. But as the source wisely says, that's exactly why this line matters. It's a crucial reminder. It reminds us that joy isn't the opposite of struggle. It can coexist with it. It's not an either-or situation.
It's not all or nothing.
Exactly. It's not about pretending everything's wonderful. It's not demanding that every moment feels good or light. Instead, it's about gently, intentionally training our hearts to notice the goodness that still exists, even in the middle of hard things. It's a practice of seeing, of allowing space for both the ache and the potential for something good, however small.
Okay, but finding that goodness, when you're really in it, that can feel impossible. What kind of goodness are we talking about? Can you give some examples from the source?
Sure. And they're often quite subtle, the kinds of things we easily miss if we're rushing or consumed by the negative. It could be a kind word from someone, unexpected kindness, or a breath of calm that somehow finds you in the middle of a really difficult conversation, or just the quiet presence of a friend who doesn't need to fix you, but just sits with you. That deep comfort of not being alone in it. And sometimes, the source notes, it's even more hidden. It takes slowing down, real stillness to perceive it. But the point is, it's there. And the text makes this powerful claim. If we only allow ourselves to feel joy when everything is stable, we'll rarely feel it at all.
Because life is rarely perfectly stable.
Right. If joy depends on perfection, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment.
So how do we embrace this? The source calls allowing joy in these moments an act of rebellion against despair. That's strong language. What does that mean?
It means choosing to see and acknowledge the light, however faint, is an act of defiance against the narrative that says darkness is all there is. It's like saying, even here, even with this pain, even in this mess, God hasn't left. Goodness hasn't vanished entirely. It's a declaration that even here, even now, God has not abandoned us. It's not ignoring the struggle. It's refusing to let the struggle have the final word, refusing to let it define the entirety of reality. And this joy, the source is careful to say, isn't just superficial happiness. It's not fleeting pleasure.
It's deeper than that.
Much deeper. It's rooted. It's reflective. It doesn't just happen to us. It grows from paying attention, from intentionally giving thanks, even for small things, from choosing to breathe deeply instead of rushing through our pain. It's cultivated. And the text suggests that the more we practice this kind of moment-by-moment presence, the more we start to see how God is present too. Not just in big miracles.
But in the everyday.
Exactly. Not just in the breakthroughs or the blessings, but in the slow, steady grace of daily life. It gives these beautiful examples. In the breath, in the sunrise, in the stillness. Quote, in the laughter you didn't expect to find in a heavy week. In the strength you didn't know you had until it showed up when you needed it. It's in those quiet, often unnoticed moments that this deep, resilient joy can really take root.
Okay, now we arrive at maybe the toughest part. Accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. That feels deeply counterintuitive. Hardship usually feels like the opposite of peace, like an obstacle, an interruption, a failure, a delay, something to get past.
It absolutely does, and it raises that fundamental question, how? How can something so painful lead to peace? The source offers a really core belief here, a perspective shift. It argues that hardship is not just something to get through. It's not just an endurance test. It's something God can use. And this distinction is critical, just vital. Not cause, but use.
That's huge. God doesn't cause it.
No, the source is clear. God isn't inflicting pain as punishment or a test he designed. But he can redeem it. He can work within it. And the purpose? To shape us, not destroy us, to refine, not punish, to draw us closer, not push us away. It reframes hardship from being purely destructive to having a potentially transformative purpose within God's grace.
That distinction feels incredibly important, especially when talking to someone in a deep pain, because the absolute last thing you want to hear when you're grieving or feel betrayed or struggling with addiction or loss is someone saying, oh, well, God's just teaching you something. It can feel so cheap. So invalidating.
Exactly. And the source handles this with such care. It states very clearly, the goal here isn't to minimize pain or to romanticize suffering. Hardship is hard, period. There's no attempt to brush it aside or make it seem less than what it is. It even quotes Jesus in John 16:33. In this world, you will have trouble.
That will is important. It's not might.
It's a reality of life in this broken world. But, and this is the crucial pivot, Jesus didn't stop there. He immediately added, but take heart. I have overcome the world. That's the promise the prayer leans into. Not a promise of a trouble-free life, but the promise that Suffering doesn't get the final word. That peace is possible even within the trouble, because as the Source defines it, peace isn't the absence of struggle. Peace is the presence of God.
Peace is the presence of God. That changes everything. So this peace, it's not an easy peace. The Source calls it peace that only gets forged in the fire. What does that look like?
It's described as something earned, almost, not easily won. It's the kind of peace that comes after you've cried out every question you thought you weren't allowed to ask. After the raw honesty. It arrives not because you got the answer you were hoping for, but because you finally stopped running from the truth of your situation, your pain, your limitations. It rises slowly, quietly, underneath the ache, the Source says, because something in you finally let go of pretending. You surrendered, and that's different from giving up. It's giving in to grace, to God, to the process. So it can't be rushed. It doesn't come on command. You can't just demand it, but it's real, and it changes you. It's a deep foundational shift.
So when hardship is truly surrendered, not resisted, not ignored, not just spiritualized away, but really surrendered, how does it transform us? What happens in that space?
That surrendered space becomes fertile ground. Hardship, accepted this way, humbles us. It cuts through the ego, the noise. It silences noise. It strips away the illusions we thought would protect us. The illusion of control, maybe, or self-sufficiency.
The things we relied on that maybe weren't reliable.
Exactly. And in that quiet, stripped-down place, the Source says, we start to see what's really been holding us all along. And it's often not what we thought, not our strength, not our strategies, not our ability to keep it all together, but His presence, His grace, His word, His people, the things that actually endure when everything else is shaken. It reveals our true foundation.
That's a profound unveiling. What specifically stands out to you from the Source about how this process helps us understand ourselves and God better?
Well, two things really jump out. First, it reveals the idols we didn't know we had. Hardship has this way of showing us where our true trust lies, where we've placed our core identity. Is it in success, in relationships being perfect, in maintaining control? It's definitely not comfortable, but it's clarifying. It forces us back to fundamental questions. Who is God? Who am I? What can I actually trust in?
It's back to basics.
Yeah, it really does. And second, it tenderizes us. It makes us more compassionate, more empathetic. When you've walked through your own fire, it tends to remove our judgment and replace it with mercy when we see others suffer. Pain becomes familiar ground, not something foreign, and it gives us a new kind of strength. Not brittle strength, but the resilient kind that knows how to grieve and still hold hope.
Let's clarify accepting again, because accepting hardship can sound like agreeing with it or liking it.
Right, and that's not it at all. The Source is very specific. Accepting hardship doesn't mean agreeing with it. It doesn't mean celebrating it. What it does mean is we stop resisting reality. We stop fighting against what is, and instead, we start asking different questions. Questions like, God, where are you in this? What do you want to show me? How can I walk through this in a way that brings peace, not panic? Resistance, the Source points out, doesn't make hardship disappear. It just adds another layer of tension. It leads to fighting, numbing, blaming, exhaustion.
This makes it heavier.
Exactly. Acceptance, on the other hand, allows us to see the terrain more clearly, to stop flailing and start walking. Now, the path may still be steep. The pain may still be real. Acceptance doesn't magically erase the difficulty. But now we're walking with open hands, with God beside us, with a heart that's being formed instead of fractured. And the goal isn't immediate relief. The goal is to be present enough for transformation to take root. Peace starts there, in that presence, that trust, realizing you're not alone and you're being changed. #4day. Peace in the ordinary and the reframing of time.
You know, sometimes I think we underestimate the spirituality of just ordinary life. We look for peace in the big moments, the mountaintop experiences. But this Source seems to suggest it's often found in quieter, less spectacular ways.
Absolutely. It challenges that idea that peace only arrives with fireworks. The Source gives these lovely, quiet examples. Peace can be found in the moment you decide not to escape into your old habits, that conscious choice, in the way you speak gently to yourself when the day doesn't go as planned, offering yourself grace, in the quiet whisper that reminds you, you're still here, keep going. That internal resilience. It argues that the Serenity Prayer, when it talks about accepting hardship as a pathway, it's not speaking in metaphor. It's practical. It's simply inviting us to shift our posture, to move from resistance to cooperation with God, right here, in the midst of whatever is happening.
So connecting this to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard for us to accept these seasons we didn't choose? Our impulse is always to fight, to fix, to push away discomfort.
And that impulse comes from a good place, right? A longing for goodness, for things to be right. But the source warns that in our rush to escape the discomfort, we might miss what God wants to reveal in it. It suggests that God does some of his deepest, most tender work in seasons we would never choose for ourselves.
That feels true looking back sometimes.
Doesn't it? It gives examples. In the middle of loss, we discover what it means to be comforted, truly comforted. In the wake of failure, we learn what grace really feels like. Unearned kindness. When we're stripped of what we thought defined us, our roles, our successes, we get a clearer view of who we are underneath it all. It's raw, it's honest, it's painful, but it's holy ground. And the result? We become less performative and more real. Less desperate for answers, maybe, and more reliant on a quiet dependence on God.
The source calls out a specific lie here. One it says is among the hardest lies to let go of. It's the belief that peace is always on the other side of change, that we'll find it after everything works out.
Yes, that finish line mentality. And the source offers such a powerful counter. Peace isn't found in everything working out. Not necessarily. It's found in who you're becoming, even when things haven't worked out. It's found in discovering that your identity isn't dependent on circumstances, but on the unchanging character of God. That's where stability lies. And we grow the most, it suggests, when we stop treating hardship as an interruption and start engaging it as part of our formation.
Engaging it.
By choosing to stay awake inside of it. To stop numbing, we stop blaming, we stop spinning. Instead, we breathe. We listen, we ask better questions, we let ourselves grieve. We stop demanding that pain justify itself and instead ask God to be near in it. And he is. And peace shows up quietly. Comes as the ability to sit still. Comes as the courage to be okay with not knowing. Sometimes it just feels honest. And somehow in that honesty, God begins to speak. It emphasizes peace is a pathway, not a shortcut. No instant formula, just a slow, quiet, faithful way. Marked by presence, patience, surrender, trust. And eventually, something deep begins to settle in your soul. Something strong, something real. It won't always make the pain disappear, but it will carry you through it.
Another fascinating angle the source explores is how the Serenity Prayer doesn't just ask God to change us, but to shape our relationship to time. What does that mean?
It's about how easily we live outside the present, isn't it? Our minds race ahead to tomorrow's pressure, or they loop back to yesterday's regrets and the shame. And while we're doing that, the present, the place where life actually happens, where God actually meets us, is slipping past unnoticed. We miss our own lives. And think about the emotions tied to that. Anxiety lives in the future, and shame lives in the past. But peace can only live in the present. The source even warns that the enemy works so hard to keep us anywhere but here. Because when we're not present, we're vulnerable, not grounded, not available to God or to others or even to ourselves.
That makes sense. Being scattered makes us vulnerable.
But when we intentionally slow down, choose presence, our soul settles. We start to notice things we'd otherwise miss. God's grace in the ordinary, his faithfulness in the mundane, his whisper in the silence, and the realization dawns. We're not alone and we're not as lost as we thought because here, in this moment, God is with us.
But doing that, it feels so countercultural, so unnatural sometimes. Like the source says, it goes against the grain of how we've learned to survive by bracing, anticipating, controlling, which, as it points out, is exhausting, it's unsustainable, and it's lonely.
It really is. We isolate ourselves trying to control everything. So the source poses these great questions. What if peace doesn't come from being prepared for everything, but from trusting God in anything? And what if the kind of maturity God's inviting you into isn't about mastering every situation, but about learning how to remain rooted no matter what's happening around you?
Rootedness, not mastery.
Exactly. And when we approach it that way, living one day at a time is more than survival, it becomes worship. A sacred act of defiance against fear, a declaration that God is enough, even when the future is foggy. And some days, just managing that one day, that one breath, that's all you can manage. That's not a failure, it's faith. That's what trust looks like in real time. #TagMeV. The deeper meaning of acceptance and identity.
Can we go back to enjoying one moment at a time for a second? Specifically thinking about people in recovery or healing from trauma. Joy can feel almost dangerous sometimes, or undeserved.
Yes, and the source speaks to that with such tenderness. It basically says, it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel a little uncomfortable when joy shows up. Don't judge yourself for that discomfort. But it gently urges, don't push it away. Let it be a teacher. Let it be a guest, even if it feels unfamiliar. Because healing means learning to let yourself smile again, Not because everything is fixed, but because God is still giving gifts, even in the middle of the brokenness.
Small gifts.
Tiny gifts sometimes. A deep breath, a text from a friend, a quiet moment in prayer when you sense, even for just a second, that God is near. And the advice is, don't rush past that. Don't minimize it. Don't tell yourself you have to earn it. Joy is not a reward. It's the fruit of presence. And presence is the gift of grace. It's about receiving that grace.
And connecting back to accepting hardship. It really does feel like a key to unlocking something, even though it's hard.
A freeing truth. It is. Because, as the Source puts it so honestly, we don't accept hardship because it feels good. We accept it because denying it makes us sick. Fighting it drains us. We accept it because only in acceptance can we actually begin to heal. And the posture isn't liking it. You don't have to like the hardship to walk through it with God. You just have to stop pretending it's not there. You just have to be honest. This is hard. This hurts. I don't understand it. But I believe you are still good. I believe you are still near. That kind of raw, honest, surrendered posture is the soil where peace grows. Not because pain vanishes, but because love holds you in it.
So when we weave all this together, presence, finding joy, accepting hardship, what does it ultimately tell us about our true identity?
It points to this deep mystery. Peace isn't about getting through the storm. It's about knowing who's in the boat with you. Hardship doesn't magically become holy through perfect endurance. It becomes holy because we don't walk through it alone. When we engage it this way, faith becomes less abstract, more relational. You start talking to God more honestly. You start letting yourself be comforted instead of just asking to be rescued. And it redefines spiritual maturity. It's not certainty like confidence, but often it looks more like this: waking up and choosing to trust again, even when things feel bleak. It looks like showing up to life with gentleness, telling God the truth, even if it's messy. Maturity is about being real. Hardship helps with that realness. It removes our masks. It brings us to the end of ourselves, not so we'll collapse, but so we'll reach for God, for connection. Peace grows best in a heart that's finally stopped pretending. And the Serenity Prayer gives us permission for that. It doesn't ask us to fix everything. It doesn't rush us. It just says, start here, just today, just this moment, just be here and let God meet you here.
That feels so gentle.
It is. And the promise is He will, every single time. Even when we feel unsure, this is the God who doesn't rush you out of pain, but sits with you inside it. And when we lean into that, fear begins to loosen, the shame begins to melt, the lies begin to lose their grip. Our identity becomes rooted not in what you've done or haven't done, but in who God says you are: loved, chosen, held, seen, and absolutely not alone.
Wow. If we can really learn to accept hardship as a pathway to peace, then everything starts to look different, doesn't it?
It really does. We stop seeing struggle purely as an obstacle. We start asking different questions like the Source suggests. What am I learning? How is God shaping me here? What's being revealed that I wouldn't have seen without this season? Marcula. And the anchor isn't having all the answers. You don't need every answer to keep walking. You just need trust. Not trust in a plan. Trust in a person, the one who has never left you. Yeah. And then peace. It stops being a finish line. It starts being a companion, something that walks with you. #tag outro.
So we've really explored this pathway, cultivating peace through presence, finding joy amidst struggle, radically accepting hardship, all held together by trust. And that core question the Source leaves us with is so simple, yet so deep. What would it look like for you to stay present to this day? Man, not tomorrow, not yesterday, just this one. Just this breath. Think about the concrete things, this conversation you need to have, this boundary you need to honor, this forgiveness you need to consider, even this meal, this walk, this stillness. Choosing presence in these small moments, the Source says, matters more than you think. It's how you become someone different, not overnight, but over time, through repetition, through honesty, through grace.
Yeah, and that concluding prayer in the Source material, it asks to return to the present, to live this day with God, not just get through it. It asks for wisdom, not just to know the difference, but to live it with grace, peace as something lived, embodied. And it encourages you, the listener, to really engage with this. Sit with it, journal it, talk to someone about it, bring it to God again tomorrow, because this is how peace grows, not in a rush, but in rhythm, day by day, moment by moment. And it offers that beautiful assurance, peace that doesn't depend on understanding everything. That kind of peace is sacred and a gift, and it's available even now as you breathe, as you listen, as you walk this out one step at a time.
And as we finish, the Source also grounds this in community. It mentions, for those local to Pittsburgh, that Celebrate Recovery at Peters Creek Baptist Church meets every Friday night at 7 p.m. and suggests checking crlocator.com for groups elsewhere, or pcbc.church for more on the church. It's a reminder that we don't walk this path alone. And finally, it leaves us with this powerful truth to hold. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not what's been done to you. You are not alone. And peace is possible because God is with you. Walk gently, walk honestly, and walk with God.